Boy, is sales leadership taking a wrong turn. I think this happened really with the circumvent of the dashboard and the CRM, making that the focus. Now, I'm not negative on CRM at all. I think there's a role for it, but it is not the centerpiece of our life in sales. Our customers are. Our forecast may be in the order of the deals closed, but how many of those deals in that database are going to close? Probably 1%. Yet we're spending so much time on that 99% that aren't closing. And it leaves our leaders busy with the minutia of the dashboard and the KPIs and the metrics. And this, I think, has really diminished sales. So what do? They hire more people with less experience. And it's just turning into this never-ending cycle. Today's topic is going to be how to fix that. Get back to sales leaders being leaders. And we call part of that, the softer part of that, coaching. Coaching is getting to know the person, expressing concern about them, helping them where they are to where they want to go, talking through situations, not judging, not criticizing, talking through. None of us know what tomorrow holds, and including in the sales arena. We don't know what a customer's going to do. We can guess, we can forecast, much like the weather, but we don't know for sure. And what's happening today is managers or leaders have not as much experience as they used to. They're managing more people. And the people above them, guess what they want? They want the CRM to look nice and pretty. And the prettiness of the reports is circumventing the effectiveness of the reps. So we're going to get into this in gory detail today. Not gory detail, fun detail. We're going to chat it up a little bit, talk through the issues. This is meant to be for reps. I may post this, I probably will, on the B2B Revenue Leadership feed as well. But I wanted you to hear it because there's our side of it as reps, meaning that as reps, how do we get better at our profession? Now, we can just do it, practice it. And, I heard a conversation this morning that kind of reinforces that people don't get sales. They said, it comes down to three major things. It comes down to hard work. Duh. I'm not touching it. Not touching it. I won't touch it. Number two, relationships, which is fluffy. Now, of course, relationships matter, but relationships with who, at what level, to what extent, and how do you build them? You're dealing with people, other mammals. You have to have a relationship with them. But is that enough? Rarely is it enough. How many times have you had a great relationship with a client and they go with your competitor? Now, lots of reasons. How many times have you sold to an existing customer and they abandon you? Or they pick somebody else's product over yours? You had a better relationship, but they didn't pick you. They may not have even liked the other person, but might have been a different feature, might have been they knew how to run the organization better, got there first, got a better price. Who knows? There's a lot of elements. We've got to play the whole game of sales. And if we stay at this bland goodness level, we're missing the point. We're basically coasting over the real issues. And it's kind of like the press conference of sales. If you watch a press conference after an athletic event, it's all about teamwork. Yes, it is. Of course it is. But that's bland goodness. Do you think the other team wasn't about teamwork? Of course they were. Were they less about teamwork? How do you judge that? You got to understand sales is a game. And people say, you're overly complexing it. Well, I don't know how complex your game is. I know how complex mine is. I want to simplify it. But you got to play it because you are playing it whether you admit it or not. You're on the game field. You may not know the markers. You may not know the rules. You may not know the places that you have to go and where the gold is. But it's there. And that's what I think we're missing in sales. So how do you become better at sales? Well, one way is to do it. Another way is to get a coach. Now, our managers should be coaching us, but they're not for a lot of reasons. CRM and the administrative bullshit is one reason. The other reasons are they may not know. They may oversimplify it. Their vantage point is only the best of the best of the best deals. It's not the minutia that you and I deal with. They only deal with it once it's already got approval. There's already buy-in. You've got the technical sale. It's in the administrative process. They know how to do that. So that coaching, unless you're in that situation, is irrelevant. It doesn't matter yet. Your deal's stuck. You don't have buy-in. You don't have the business sale yet. This is why coaching is important, whether you can get your own, you can go hire somebody, you can buddy up with a coworker, a friend down the street, a spouse, a partner, whoever, and talk through your deals. You'll get more just doing that. Even if you just talk to yourself about the deals, write it down on paper. That's what I did for years. I'd sit down with my notebook and I'd do out the org chart where I am, what I'm concerned about, do the map to money, and that was really helpful. And I share the story about me becoming better at chess. I kind of leveled off. But once I got a coach, now it seems silly. You got a coach to play a game? Yeah, I wanted to see what it was like, to see if there was value. And I heard Howard Stern did it, and I go, well, it's good enough for Howard Stern. It's good enough for me. And enormous impact. Why? Because he focused me on looking at the game in a different way, made me analyze my thought process, questioned me, got me thinking differently. He didn't care about hurting my feelings. He was sensitive to it, and I just wanted to become better. I know I'm no genius, you know that. That's well understood in the sales community. So it helped. And in sales, it's another way of accelerating, like any performance skill. You want to become better at cooking, playing the guitar, playing a video game. Guess what? If you have somebody who understands that game better or differently than you, that person who, if they're good communicator, good questioner, patient with you, they can help you think through that process. Let's get into the interview. I think you're going to really like this one. Also, make sure you're checking out Co-Video and last week's episode where we talk about we're communicators. And guess what? A more powerful way to communicate is when you have more than one sense involved. If it's just email, they're reading text. And they assume that it is machine generated, not human generated. Hard to generate a video email. You get those deep fake things coming, but we're years away from that. Wait till that comes out. I think that's going to be a bigger threat to sales than anything. What we need is to connect with people, build that rapport, crack through the are you friend, food, or foe? Hey, I got that episode coming up. And the assumption is if they don't know you, you're foe. What we got to do is let them know that we're friend. Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end, and I'll give you an update on what's going on in the courses for the people taking them. Hey, Sarah, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thanks, Brian. Very happy to be here. I am the co-author of The Coaching Effect, and I work with Excel Institute helping sales leaders and leaders really from all sorts of different walks of life determine how to coach and lead their teams more effectively. So I spend my time studying what makes coaches great and how to help people do more of that.
Cool. And yourself, Bill, where do you fit in?
Seems like anymore I report to Sarah, but I'm the president of the Excel Institute and the other co-author of The Coaching Effect. And what she said in regards to what we do, helping leaders and coaches throughout, primarily the business world. It seems like anymore we're being pulled into the athletic world as well, but helping everybody understand and quantify the impact they have on the performance of teams.
Cool. And what did you see going wrong in the field that prompted the motivation to write a book about it?
Um, there are a few things. Number one, the primary motivator, actually, Brian, was our clients and friends that were continually asking us, do you have a book? Well, why don't you write a book?
Yeah.
We've been doing research for over 10 years, and we had a great chunk of data that we wanted to do something with. So the need was, number one, that. Number two, the way people look at coaching and view coaching is just backwards. They see coaching through such a limited lens. They view coaching as, in sales, for example, as feedback, for example, that a sales manager might give a salesperson after a sales call. Yeah. Well, coaching is so much more than that. Coaching, as we've seen in our research, and we found in our research, and Sarah can expound upon this, it's about the relationship you have with the person on your team. It's your ability to drive great processes and put in proper systems, your ability to challenge people, to make them uncomfortable, to create that healthy discomfort, which allows them to grow. And all everybody wants to talk about are like pipeline reviews and
KPI,
forecasting.
Dashboards.
And yeah, right. And if you're doing that and you suck at having relationships, Brian, you're actually going to demotivate people. We have seen it in our data. People will actually sell less if we tell them to coach more. So there's a big gap between understanding really what coaching is. And then the third item is that nobody's measuring it.
Yeah.
We've been able to quantify what great coaching is.
And, because what I see is no coaching, or that their idea of coaching is doing a pipeline review or sharing a forecast, counting KPIs. And they've created journalists or actors instead of salespeople. And I recently did a video on LinkedIn about, I did a mock conversation between a sales manager and a sales rep, where they ask about a deal, and instead of wanting to talk about it, they go, put it in the CRM. Rep puts it in the CRM. Then the manager calls them to ask them about the deal. It doesn't read the CRM.
Right.
He goes, okay, I'll read the CRM to you.
I think that's right.
And also, let's face it, sales leaders aren't known for their coaching abilities. I mean, the great ones are, but most of them get promoted because they're the most administratively focused salesperson sometimes. They're the person most apt to be able to manage the CRM and the operations versus the actually being a great sales leader. So that transition must be pretty tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really tough, because what we see is that when we ask salespeople what their manager does best, it's exactly what you said. They feel like their manager has good product knowledge, has good industry knowledge, has good selling skills, but none of those translate to actually more motivation to sell. If the sales leader is a great coach, if they can help that person improve their skills at point of sale, if they can help that person grow and develop professionally, that's what we see correlate to better sales results. So yes, they're promoted because they're great salespeople, but they don't have the skills once they move into that job. And so that's where we've really tried to come in, is to help them understand, this is what the transition has to look like. This is what you have to be good at if you're actually going to help your team perform, as opposed to you just being a good individual performer.
Yeah, because coaching is different than sales training.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because people who are good at sales usually aren't very good at explaining why.
Right.
Sales. They'll take one characteristic, relationships or product knowledge or rapport, and they'll kind of narrow it all down to that, their magic, instead of how do you convey that magic to somebody else and be able to talk through that. How do you guys define coaching?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. So essentially, it comes down to kind of three primary elements. If you're going to have a good coaching relationship with somebody, you first have to build a great relationship with them. So you first have to know who they are, understand who they are, and to be able to motivate to that. Number two, you want to have some element of order and expectations to what you're asking them to do, to give them a clear picture of this is what good performance looks like. Here's my expectations from you. And then number three, you want to be able to challenge them. We call it putting them into complexity, getting them to learn, getting them to build their skills, getting them to think differently and hopefully take some new approaches in order to improve. You put that all together, relationships, order, and complexity, and you see improved performance. And to us, that's what coaching really is helping somebody achieve their goals, helping them improve their performance levels. You do that, you're a good coach.
And you don't see that very often, do you?
We don't. When we come into client relationships, we typically see that maybe only a third of the people that we work with really have that natural coaching ability or that ability that they've developed throughout their career. The rest are just lacking in certain areas.
And do you see a lot of just game playing where the reps smile and nod, what I used to call, whatever the manager said, you smiled and nod because they're going to go away and you go off and do what you know works.
Yeah.
And then the manager looks at it as kind of transactional, meaning you either make your number, you don't. If you don't, you put on a plan. They're constantly interviewing to replace you. You're looked at as a tool, not a real member of a team.
Right. Yeah.
And how do you go about changing that mentality? I'm sure you can tell them, but then they're like, well, I've got my number to make. I've got my job to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
In terms of helping somebody change that mentality, it's really starting to engage them as a partner in terms of accomplishing their sales goal. So I think the reason for what you just said, Brian, why so many people just have that disconnect with their manager, they smile and nod when they're coached by them, is their manager's just talking at them. They're saying to them, here's what I did when I was a salesperson. And sometimes that's, exactly. And sometimes that's helpful, but a lot of times they need to have a conversation with their salesperson. Talk to them about, what are you trying with this client that's working? What are you trying that's not working? What have you considered doing that you haven't done yet with them? What's a different approach that maybe you haven't taken yet? They need to have a conversation so that the salesperson is part of coming up with that strategy, and so that they leave that coaching conversation feeling like, okay, I learned some new stuff. I got some new ideas, and it wasn't just somebody telling me what to do. We were working out a solution together, and I'm owning that. So I actually want to take action on it as opposed to just, being talked at.
And how about
I think, Brian, go ahead.
How do you build it into the weekly routine? Do you set aside a special time? Do you look for an opportunity? Do you do it off-site? Do you always do it one-on-one?
Yes and yes and yes. Except to the last question, it's not always one-on-one. If I can back up for a second, what Sarah is describing and really what you're getting at, Brian, is a coach's role, a sales leader's role is to create, and we talk about this in the coaching effect, their role is to create discretionary effort. In other words, we know, and people will joke about this, but the reality is, if a sales manager doesn't show up for work, if they go on vacation, if they quit, salespeople will still sell.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like they can't sell without a manager, without a leader, without a coach in place. They can still play the game without a coach. So the question becomes and this is where executive leaders really need to focus in. They have to understand that sales leaders, that frontline sales manager's job is to get salespeople to sell more. Yes. We use the term, they have to create discretionary effort. So what Sarah's describing is a way to create discretionary effort. So when we look across, and we've measured now over 100,000 coaching interactions in the workplace, most of which are between sales leaders and salespeople, when we look at those coaching interactions, we know, for example, what Sarah described, having that relationship, asking questions, doing more asking than telling, having one-on-one meetings. To answer your question, Brian, are those done in one-on-ones? Yes, they are. Are they done in team meetings? Absolutely, they are. They should be done formally and informally all the time. Those are examples of how sales managers, sales coaches create that discretionary effort that ultimately is what needs to be measured. Because we have seen sales organizations have sales leaders leave a team, and that team sells more when they're gone. So we know for a fact they're providing negative discretionary effort.
Well, you're talking to somebody who speaks to salespeople all day long, and I've never heard somebody say I sell more because of my manager.
Well, we actually ask that question, don't we, Sarah?
Yeah, we do. We do. If having your manager with you actually helps you achieve more, and there's a lot of salespeople that don't. You're right, that their manager doesn't add any value.
And I probably had 12 sales managers in my career, and I'd say 80% of them did not increase revenue.
Yeah.
There were a couple that were fantastic and that you brought them in at the right time. But then there was the ones that just wanted to go along to see how well I was doing.
Right.
You know, and then they end up hijacking the meeting and then telling me that, oh, it should be pretty easy. They seem very excited. And I'm like, well, we didn't close for next meeting. We don't understand where we fit versus the competition. I think you guys have an unlimited market is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And it's funny, to your point, Brian, we see in our research that 40% of sales leaders are not even willing to change or adapt the way they coach to drive more performance. 40% of them just say basically, hey, I am who I am. I'm going to coach the way I coach. I'm going to lead the way I lead, however you want to define it. And whatever result it produces, end of story.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
But I'm thinking, because we're going a little bit mad today in sales with division of labor, coming up with a person to do every little function in the assembly line of a deal. I'm thinking maybe on the management side, they should try that, meaning that there's sales operations, keeping the CRM clean, the forecast clean, the data clean, all the tools up and working. And then there's sales leadership, which is hiring the right people, training the right people. But maybe there's coaching, like SAP does this. They have a separate sales coaching team where reps proactively talk to a sales coach about deals, about how to deal with their manager, how to deal with clients, things like that. I don't know. Is that too frou-frou or a luxury?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a luxury for sure. Yeah. I think ideally you want the person that's managing and leading that to behave like a coach. You want them to be the type of person that the salesperson says, I can learn from this person. They help me get better. They help me improve things. Yeah, absolutely. And the good managers do that. The good managers really do behave like a coach. But yeah, it's a luxury in the sense that most of them don't. I will say the one good thing that we've discovered over the last few years is that you can help a sales manager get better in these areas. We went into this kind of curious to see if when we measure the quality of sales coaching, and we measure that by asking their salespeople. So we don't take the word of senior leaders. Yeah, exactly.
I'm fantastic.
Right, exactly.
Right. Everybody's a winner.
Right, yeah. It's not the sales managers rating themselves. It's not even their bosses rating them. It's their salespeople saying, yeah, this person's a really good coach or a really bad coach. And when we ask their salespeople whether or not their manager's doing the coaching and doing it effectively, we can actually see improvement over time if they really dedicate themselves to learning these principles of how to be a good coach. So the cool thing is it is teachable. You can get better at it if you want to.
And what's really fascinating, Brian, when you think about that, so we measure quantity of coaching, we measure quality of coaching. And in terms of quality of coaching, for every percentage point a sales leader increases in the quality of coaching they provide equates to almost $500,000 in increased revenue. So the impact is beyond profound.
Yeah. Because I look, off my anecdotal experience in that if most reps are always concerned about their job, either they're doing really well, my territory is going to get cut. I'm not doing well, I'm going to lose my job. Almost nobody tells me, I've got a great relationship with my manager.
Mm-hmm.
A great relationship with my manager is they're leaving me alone.
Right. That's right. That's right.
But that tells you something about the manager.
Yeah.
Sarah and I talk all the time when we're doing workshops or coaching effect workshops, whatever it may be. One of the things we help people understand that coaching an average salesperson is easy. It's coaching a top performer that really is a test of your abilities as a coach or as a leader. And by the way, we use the term coach leader interchangeably. Actually, we don't. We believe great coaches know how to lead. Leaders don't know how to coach. Coaching involves a level of complexity because there's always a team involved. But so we believe, great coaches know how to lead. And so getting back to your point, which I forgot what it was. I'm drawing a blank right now. Can you edit this out? What's that?
They feel a great manager is somebody who just leaves them alone and does what they ask.
Oh, right. So if a salesperson says, I just want my manager to leave me alone to get out of the way, obviously they're not providing any value.
Yeah.
And one of our VP of sales here at the Excel Institute has said before, if organizations are not willing to invest in their coaches to make them great coaches, they ought to get rid of the role and just have a help desk. But then, which would be interesting, back to your, division of labor. I remember working Sarah and I have done work with way beyond our own organization. And there's a woman in particular, her name is Dr. Mary Ewelbein, who's got a PhD in org behavior and leadership. I remember her sharing with us one time, and Sarah, I don't know if you remember this, that she said, we quit trying to disprove hierarchies in terms of leadership. She said, and the reason we quit trying to disprove them is because we found out they need to be in place.
Yeah.
So to that division of labor, I'm not sure. I've never read anything yet where that has improved discretionary effort of salespeople.
No, I think certainly salespeople are money motivated, but they are still people. So they want to work in a place where they feel part of something, they feel valued, and they don't feel like a tool where you're interchangeable, you're just a cog in the wheel, everybody's equal. The best, and I interview a lot of sales leaders too, and I look and I've asked for on LinkedIn the best ones. They all say, I manage the individual. I work with them. I don't try and make them like someone else, including me. If they sell different, they sell different. And that's hard to do when you have 10 people. Yeah. But trying to make everybody the same isn't going to work. Well,
Sarah, how in our research, where would you rank relationship when we measure the relationship aspect between salespeople and sales leaders? Where would you say that's the top driver of discretionary effort?
It's one of them. So having a good relationship with the people that you're leading, them saying that my manager really knows me as a person, or my manager really cares about me more than just as a sales rep. They care about me as an individual. Those leaders who get high marks there tend to lead teams that produce more. So it's one of the key drivers of it. And then another key driver is, does my manager teach me, coach me, challenge me to grow and improve my skills? And the coaches that get high marks there also see team members that produce more. So relationship and then that challenging outside their comfort zone is really key.
Yeah, because I see this having the most impact versus having a clean CRM and being you know, what I call a dashboard pilot, where they've got their dashboard up there all day long and they're emailing about deals and stuff. I don't see that as a very high skilled role.
Hey, Brian, you know sales infinitely well. Have you ever seen the top producer of the year, the number one producer, or whoever their President's Club winners? Do you ever see them get up on stage, receive their awards, and thank their CRM?
I've seen the opposite. I've introduced as the only person who has never logged into the CRM.
Mm-hmm.
And they tolerate them because they know how to sell. And the CRM has its place and it is valuable. And you got to have a forecast and you got to have focus. But the job is selling, closing deals, and getting clients. That's the objective.
Yeah, we're going to, I believe, sir, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things we're starting to measure, because we've seen nothing in our research yet. Now, keep in mind, we're not saying, I come from a sales leadership background, and I get it. I've done thousands of pipeline reviews. I've seen so many forecasts that make your head spin. But again, we're not saying they're not important, but in terms of creating discretionary effort, and so again, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't seen anything in our research that would tell us doing a pipeline review or accurate forecasting drives more sales results.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I mean, if you look at what the differences are between the top coaches, those coaches whose teams are performing better, it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not that coach is knowledgeable about products. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not that coach is knowledgeable about their industry. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not they do regular pipeline reviews. It's not that those things aren't important, but they're just not a differentiator. It's kind of like it's a basic expectation.
It's an operations issue.
Yeah, you can do that basic stuff. The coaches that really have teams that perform better, they have a coaching relationship. They build good relationships, they build good rapport, and they actually teach and challenge their people to improve their skills. They add value. When their team members ask them a question, they help that person learn, and they actually help them build their skills. So that's the differentiator.
Cool. So tell us about the book. What will people get out of it if they invest their time and money in reading it?
It's a good question, and thank you for asking that, by the way, Brian. They'll get different things, which is interesting to visit with people who have read it and to read the reviews on Amazon and various places, which, knock on wood, have all been positive so far. Number one, they're going to understand the science of performance and how coaches impact, how a coach's behavior impacts the behavior of the people that report to that coach, that are part of that team. They're going to learn about the growth rings, which were basically, not to sound arrogant by any means, but they were kind of made famous in the TED Talk about how discomfort will ruin your life. So they're going to learn the role of discomfort. They're going to learn how that's important to growth. But they're also going to then get really specific. Sarah, in my mind, did a really nice job on the book of drilling down to, hey, what if I'm a leader in sales, what do I do tomorrow? What do I do next week, next month, next quarter, next year to drive improved results? And then we close the book in the final chapter with how does an organization, not just most of the book is how does an individual coach well, but we close the book with how does an organization implement a measurable, quantifiable coaching program.
Cool. And where can they go to get it?
They can get it on Amazon. They can get it at Barnes & Noble. There's a number of local bookstores that are carrying it. And if you want to have more information on the book in general, you can also go to our website, which is excellinstitute.com. So ECSELL institute.com. And there's a lot of information on the book there as well.
I hope you enjoyed that. I definitely check out the book. I downloaded it on Audible. You can get a free month of Audible with the Maverick Method coupon code. It's in the show notes right below. Just swipe up. You'll see it there. So you get it for free. No excuses. I'm starting it. I haven't finished it. I like it a lot because I basically coach a lot, all the courses. And I started throwing in one-on-one coaching, unlimited, to both of the courses. What does it include? It's a 30-minute Zoom call with me, and we apply the course to a particular situation. Now, it's not, your career focus or your personal development. It's really applying it to the course, but I love doing it. Why do I like doing it? Because I get feedback as well. Helps make the course more valuable. Adds a network effect to the course, meaning with each new student, the course becomes better. And other people get to hear it. I abstract out the name, the company, the product, and the customer, because what I found out is it doesn't matter. And I try and get everyone focused immediately on the issue they're trying to solve. People naturally try and give the situation. I was born a poor kid in South Carolina in 1954. That doesn't matter. Okay, I check out everybody's LinkedIn profile before we get on to understand your context. What I want to do is get into what are you doing now? What results are you getting? How do we make it a little bit better? Do you want feedback? Do you want to get into bigger accounts? Do you want the deals to move faster? We talk through it. And a lot of it is self-discovery, meaning that when someone just asks you questions, you kind of discover it yourself. And it gets you deeper down into the decision-making process for you. I try and stay away from the, what would you do in this situation? I answer it more like, I see like 3 alternatives. Which one do you think would most likely work? Why do you think they did that? How could you have prevented that? What do you think's going to happen next? Powerful questions that get you out of the current concern, gridlock that you might be in and open your mind up to the possibility. Because to become great at sales, we have to constantly get out of our rut and remember that we're performing every day. Too often we sell our skill like a thermostat, meaning if it becomes too hot, I'm doing this in the summer, we turn the AC on, we cool it down, and once we're nice and comfortable, it goes off. Happens again. Oh, it gets a little hot, a little humid. Oh, turn the AC on, cool it down. Instead of the cyclical compounding that we want. Are you a better salesperson today than you were a year ago this date? Will you be the next month? Are you not just knowing the skills? Are you developing and applying the skills? Do you have a systematic way of getting better a little bit every day? Not just say you're doing it, but having some way of tracking it, not in a CRM, in a notebook, on an app, whatever works for you, whatever way you like it. Now, I've been working on this Year to Excellent course, and it's taken longer than I thought because I want to produce enough value and a structure that is not just a laundry list of activities, that each month builds on the previous month, that these little tiny incremental skills, minute-a-day practices make life-changing alternatives for you. Because all of this is counterintuitive to us being mammals. See, our mammal brain works on a circadian schedule. Get up, get some water, eat something, kill something, take a nap, do repeat. And that's pretty much how we are conditioned. Get a little dopamine hit for this or that, and chase some stuff down, do some naughty things, and start the day all over again. Now, in sales, if we do that, that's the thermostat model. We prospect when our pipeline's skinny. We close at the end of the month, quarter, year, to get our commission check. But are we really building our game? Are we understanding the game that we're playing? And when I say game, the more complex your sale is, the better you have to get at the game, the more complex the game is. Too many people take a simple example of somebody who kind of cracked the code in their particular situation and says, that's what you got to do. No. I'll give you an example. I've been doing this podcast coming up on 10 years now. And it's probably been a passion, I'd say, for the last 4 years, where I've kind of done it mostly part-time, mostly full-time, and now full-time with the courses. So it really is the funnel or the mechanism to become known to you folks, is that I never really accept a student who isn't a podcast listener. Even if they happen to find me via LinkedIn and I go, listen to the podcast. I go, why? I go, I want you to self-qualify. Make sure that you get a sense that I'm the right guy for you, that I know the sale. Now, anyways, my formula for getting the word out was flawed. And I had a eureka moment about 6 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, I started now honing on that and getting that better, and I'm getting exponential growth on it. Now, for probably the last 2 years, I've been getting this little incremental, linear growth. And it's okay, but it doesn't really excite me the way I'd like to be excited. So this is what I'm trying to get at, is find a way of getting that exponential growth. And it's typically through compounding and a little bit of coaching, which happened. It was like, look, Brian, you're really good at this. Why don't you do this? And I go, okay, let me try it. I tried it, got great results, polish it up, get a coach on my videos, get them more professionally done, a little bit better, yeah. And all of a sudden, fantastic results. Super excited about that. So go to b2brevenue.com, check out the courses under the training tab, schedule a 15-minute call. The courses include 3 major components. One is unlimited access to the content in whole day one. You can pay all at once or pay monthly over 12 months, up to you. So it's not a huge, not even a minor financial commitment. One course is about the size of a good lunch, and the other one is about the size of a reasonable dinner for 2 per month. You got unlimited coaching. That is a 30-minute Zoom call with me, and we talk about applying the course to your situation. You also get office hours, an hour-long call every other Friday per course, Q&A, topic-based, feedback-based, case study-based, to build a community. Everything is put back in the course so that you can consume it at your pace and pick up the topics as you need. Everything's really well labeled and organized for you. Check it out. Appreciate everybody's help. Tell somebody about The Brutal Truth. Check out the YouTube channel. I put all the funny stuff up there, as well as I'm doing a lot of the podcasts on Zoom now versus Skype. I'm recording the videos and putting them up on YouTube for the people who like to watch instead of just listen, if you have like dedicated time. I think you need more dedicated time from me. I think that making me a bigger priority in your life is critical for both of us. Thank you for listening. Bye.